Minister, no doubt you've done a lot of work in this. You've talked about it. You're very loud on that. We can see it. We hear you. Plans and programs for the future, present, are as good as people behind it to make it work. And there are a lot of things have been said about the efficiency or the lack of the public service. Those who are surrounding you to implement all of those, are they on par with you?
It's it's always part of the process and a difficulty, particularly when you've got a public service and even a population, I suppose, that have been brought up on some of the bad habits of the past. So part of this process is trying to communicate and engage the public servants and in the process of developing these plans and to get them to try and understand the principles and what the Constitution is talking about and to look at what is happening in the rest of the world and to look at how Papua New Guinea is viewed even in the rest of the world. How we're seen in a lot of negative ways, but we know that's not us as Papua New Guineans. We know our Constitution and our culture actually respects the environment.
Yes.
Culturally, we're a people of sharing wealth. We're Melanesians. Culturally, we respect our elders, and there's a place for them in society. But we've kind of lost our way. We're trying to copycat the West. We're trying to change our culture overnight, and in doing so, we've kind of lost our way. A lot of the leadership and the normal structures that have held us together for thousands of years in the village have broken down. We don't respect the elders anymore. We don't respect culture anymore. It's all about money today, and a lot of short-term gain, and me. And in many ways, in a bigger sense, that is a culture that has driven the West to where it is today. That is why a lot of things are driven by the corporate. It's a corporate agenda that drives us, and we're kind of stuck and beholden to that. We've got to break out of that cycle in many ways. One of it includes our people itself realizing and saying we have to be determined to change. Because as I was saying earlier on, the best plans will not deliver anything unless the people and the machinery moves with you. And it is a challenge. It's a challenge to motivate our people to at least understand where our government is coming from, and then to encourage them to begin the process of change. And I always say it's all about PNG Mia, because Papua New Guinea will change when I change. If I'm a good leader, if I'm determined to be a good leader, be a good, honest, hard-working leader, be a good father, Papua New Guinea will start to change. I'll change starting with myself. I will change my family. I'll change my village and my community, and try and lead by example. And that's how real change will happen. But there's no point in me talking, and then I do something opposite. What's the point? My people will look at me and say, "Oh, so it's just based on talk." So we need to bring a lot of this cultural change through too, and that cultural shift is actually a shift probably back towards our actual and original culture,
which was efficient in itself.
Thinking about the community, thinking about others, and that is the basis of Christianity as well.
How much do you think, Minister, is costing you, is costing the country, is costing me as a taxpayer for the inefficiency that's there?
Look, I'm telling you, the real cost is every time a child cannot have a proper education, every time a child is stunted or is not fully developed physically, doesn't get the access to the education, doesn't have access to a proper job and a full life, that is the real measure and cost of the inefficiency of government and not getting plans right. That is the real, and that is the real tragedy in this process. Every time a child dies unnecessarily, every time a mother suffers unnecessarily, every time a future is lost because the education, that is the real tragedy. But don't forget, and I want to emphasize this, our government has tried very hard to address some of these issues directly. And that is why we've gone out and borrowed a lot of money and tried to attack and address education, health, infrastructure, law and order in a direct way. And that is very much a part of the process in addressing what we're talking about. That's some of the short-term things we've got to do, but we've got to make sure that that is supported by a robust planning framework and regime that ensures that in doing so, we are still creating what is a sustainable future for those children. It is affordable. It is not, we're not growing this big population and sustaining it with short-term digging gold out of the ground or chopping the trees. And we've got to, one, manage the population, and two, begin to develop a smarter and more sustainable economy. That is the importance of strategic plans, so that you don't get to that position, as I said, where you have all these children, all these lost futures, a destroyed environment, and we're wondering where to go to next. That is why you need plans to avoid. So short-term activities that are addressing the problem, but we're making sure we're also building a future that we can sustain the future of Papua New Guinea properly.